Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Gareth, for that great talk. So we're delighted to announce our next speaker. We have Dr. Katie Chong talking about using data to save the world. So over to you, Katie.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me along. So it's a little bit different to what you guys are normally talking about. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay, and so hopefully you'll be able to see my presentation. Has that worked?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Right. So thank you very much for inviting me along. I have to blame my best mate Chris Kranz for this. So he roped me in to come and talk to you today about climate change. So I work at Aston University, which is in Birmingham. I work there as a lecturer and as a researcher. And I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about how we use data to try and save the world, hopefully. Okay, here we go. So about me, I'm a chemical engineer. Most people don't really know what a chemical engineer does. So to try and explain it, it's chemical engineers basically work out how to make stuff. So we take things from raw material, so water, food, that kind of things, and we work out how to make useful products from them in a safe and cost-effective way. So if there's anything that comes into your home, like water, energy, food, anything that's made out of chemicals, normally a chemical engineer has had something to do with that. We kind of like large scale plumbers. I think that's a good way to describe it. So we work out how to make things flow, make things move around, and large scale operations. And because of this, we use a lot of maths. So whenever we're doing our calculations to work out the size of equipment or whether something's actually going to work, looking at the chemistry, for example, we use a lot of equations and maths to do that. So as well as being a lecturer at Aston, I'm also a researcher and director of this place. So this is the Energy and Bioproducts Research Institute at Aston University. And here we're very much focused on climate change and all of the solutions to climate change. So there's loads of really clever researchers that work within this building to try and find those solutions to help us save our planet, hopefully. If you ever come to visit, which you are more than welcome to do, we've got lots of interesting kit there. Next door is a pub, which is one of the good points about our building. So this is the Energy and Bioproducts Research Institute at Aston. So what do we do? What do I do? So my research is all around finding ways to try and save the planet. So you've probably heard about all the doom and gloom around climate change, what is going on with our world. There was the recent IPCC report, which, unless you were hiding under a rock, you would have heard about how it's a red alert from our climate and our planet. So basically, we don't have another planet. So we do have to find ways to try and stop destroying our planet, damaging our planet, and doing activities that aren't really helping. So there is no planet B. And all of the work that we do as researchers is about carbon. So what's been happening is that we've been using fossil fuels for about 100 or so years now. And as we release that carbon, it goes up into our atmosphere and it's acting like a blanket, which is keeping our world really warm and causing all sorts of issues. So whatever we're trying to do as researchers, it's all about the carbon. So every single atom of carbon matters. So if we can save a kilogram of carbon by doing something small, that does make a difference. So a kilogram of carbon dioxide fills up 17 standard party balloons. So every kilo of carbon dioxide that you can save will save those 17 balloons of carbon dioxide. And every one of those kilos does make a difference. So we've been doing lots of research to work out the impact of our activities on trying to reduce that amount of carbon. And we know the reasons why. This is what we're seeing. So this was in the past couple of months. This was flooding in Belgium and Germany. So this is what is happening because of climate change. So as well as floods, we're having droughts. So this is in California. And the main reason why I do it is to save these guys. So whenever I start getting demotivated about the state of things, I think about the lonely polar bear on his melting iceberg, and that motivates me to carry on. So that's why I'm doing it, is to try and save Mr. Polar Bear on his iceberg. Right, so when we're doing our research, when all the clever climate change researchers are doing stuff, so what sort of data do we actually use? So in Ebury, so in that building that you saw, we've got pieces of equipment like this. So this one on the left here, this turns wood, straw, all sorts of different materials into a liquid. And the one on the right turns those sort of materials into gases that we can then use for fuels and chemicals. So whenever we do an experiment like that, we collect loads and loads of information. So it's a huge amount of information. And this is just a small snippet. So we collect loads and loads and loads of data points, thousands of data points from each of those experiments. So we get the raw data. So it's part of our job then to interpret that data. So this one here is just the result from a single experiment, so we can track along what's happening, so we can really understand what's going on. So then we take that data, we interpret those results, and then we come up with some useful results. So then we have to decide, okay, so how are we going to use that? We've got the result of our data. How are we actually going to use it? What are we going to use it for? So as chemical engineers, as climate change researchers, we use that data for a lot of different things. So first of all, we use it for engineering design. So we need to work out whether the things that we've done in the lab are actually going to work in the real life at large scale. So we use all of those numbers to look at whether we can make that bigger, whether it's going to make people money, because no company is ever going to invest in a process if it's not going to make them money. So we use it to calculate costs, and that's something that I do in particular. So I do something called techno-economic analysis, which means I do the engineering design, then I work out how much it's going to cost to try and help companies, businesses, policymakers understand whether this solution to climate change is still going to make them money as well as saving the planet. Another thing that we do, of course, is the environmental performance. So as part of this work, we can use all of that data then to say, okay, is this better or worse than what we were doing before? So we're using it as evidence to support our research so we can decide which direction to go. And the most important reason, the most important use of all of this data is for us to share our knowledge. So as a lecturer, I share all these results to all of my students. As a researcher, we share it between each other, and we write journals, we do talks like this, we go to conferences, we talk to policymakers. So it's about sharing that knowledge. There's no point in us collecting all of this information if we're not going to share it. And open research is a huge thing in academia. So all of our work is funded, publicly funded. So we get all of the money to do our research from the government, from the European Commission, and that's your money, that's the taxpayers' money. So we have to make sure that all of this information is available for you guys if you ever want to look at it. So we do have to make all of our data available. So there are various repositories for that and various ways that we do that. So if you are ever interested in a research project, then you should be able to get your hands on that data to make sure we're spending your money wisely and to see what the final results look like. So open research is really key to good research. So then how do we use that then to save the world? Hopefully, we're trying our best here. The results that we get from all of these experiments, all of that research that is funded by taxpayers, by you guys, the results of that then help inform, they help inform other researchers so that we can tell each other any avenues that look good, any that don't look so good. So it's to try and direct our research. So we spend all of our attention looking at the stuff that is worth investigating. Really importantly, we use it to talk to the government and policymakers, because without them buying into what we're doing, nothing's going to change. So until the government and policymakers actually force people to do stuff, nothing really changes. So we use it as evidence to those guys as well. And sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't, unfortunately. We use it to talk to industry so that industry can understand how best to make their processes more sustainable, which are the ones that they can do while still making money. So we give them lots of information about how their equipment is going to behave, how much energy it's going to need, that kind of thing. And most of all now people are interested in, okay, so how much carbon is that going to emit? No one wants to be releasing carbon anymore, which is great. And then the public. This is something that I'm particularly passionate about, is informing people about all of these things that is going on to try and help save the planet. And the more we speak about it, the better it is. So keep talking about it. We can see the power of talking about climate change just by looking at people like Greta, who just by talking about it has had all of the schools protests. If you look at David Attenborough, it's just one man talking about it and the power of that person. So using these results help inform all of those people as well. So hopefully all of that data that we're collecting, all of that research that we're doing is helping us to find solutions to climate change. So all of those numbers are helping us to help find those solutions. So that's a little quick introduction, but if anyone wants to ask me any more questions about climate change, what we do on bioenergy, biomass, any of that stuff, then please drop me a line, and you can also find me on Twitter as well. So thank you very much for listening to me waffling on this morning.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much, Katie.
You're very welcome.
One quick question from me, actually. For folks who maybe were inspired by that and want to do their own part, like what are the things that we could do ourselves? Is there ways we can contribute, join, shout? Is there any strong recommendation you'd say, like, this is the one thing that you should go out and do?
Well, there's loads of little things that you can do. It's about making more sustainable choices. So, for example, don't put your heating on, put a jumper on. Just try not to buy so much stuff, because whenever you buy something, you've got to think about all the carbon that's gone into making it, all of the emissions that go into making it, as well as the transport and all of that kind of thing. Consider reducing the amount of meat you eat. I'm not saying that you do have to go vegan, but that's the extreme end. But you can, just by reducing the amount of carbon that you emit. It's just about making sensible and sustainable choices. If you want to get involved, then you can just keep an eye out for local events that are happening. So I'm part of a big project called Supergen Bioenergy. And we do lots of projects that the public can get involved with. So we've got one running that will be running soon, and it's to talk to school kids. So we're getting the view of school kids from around the world on what they think about climate change. A massive event that's coming up this year is COP. So COP26 is where all of the countries from around the world get together to talk about climate. This year it's in Glasgow. So there are loads of events happening around that, lots of public events as well. So look for COP26 and you should be able to find lots of things going on around COP that you can get involved with and join in. So yeah, it's about making it, so we just need to make sure that we keep talking about it is the most important thing.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I realize this may not be the normal audience that you speak to, so we're really grateful that you could join us. Thanks for Chris asking you to join. It's been brilliant. So that's the talk from Katie. If anyone has any questions for her, feel free to add them into our Slack channel, the Track One Slack channel.